Órale! Bienvenidos and welcome to the Familia FFB podcast. Estamos aquí en vivo on YouTube. Please make sure you give us a like and subscribe. But first off, we got a special guest, un invitado de lujo, mi buen amigo, Bo McBrayer. You guys on Twitter, all of you following him, know him as Bo_McBigtime. And he is not only the king of spice, pero él es el rey de los picantes. So I'm telling you, he's the co-host of Chalk Blocked, along with Scott Simpson, our other fellow amigo. He is co-hosted the Ball Blast Waiver Wire show. He has been written all over the place, all sorts of different sites. A lot of his work is on Nimble W Numbers, and if you have not checked out his hot cash from the King of Spice, make sure to check that out right after this live stream. But un millón de gracias to my buen amigo Bo. Estás en tu casa. So, ¿cómo estamos, mi amigo?
Estoy en mi casa. Mil gracias de juntar otra vez. Estoy muy orgulloso de juntarte otra vez, porque estamos familia. Ese juego es la familia, es la cosa más importante en todo el mundo. Y mil gracias de invitarme.
Oh, un millón de gracias. I'm telling you, familia, he speaks Spanish better than most of my primos. So, I tell you, it's all. Bo and I got connected early part of the last year, probably around the NFL draft. He's become a good friend, and I tell you, he really is one of the great minds in DFS. So, if you're not already following him, you probably are following him, but if you're not, make sure to give him a follow, because he and Scott, not only do they put together the sexiest DFS show, and I shaved today, so for now, but I wanted to make sure that I needed to make sure to kind of trim up a little bit to make sure I stayed close, but yeah, and I kept the beard because I was going to shave down to a goatee for the new year, but I thought, you know what, Bo's coming on, I'm going to keep it for a few
Your
extra
primos
days.
Actually do follow me. Nos siguen por la comida, los tacos.
Oh, siempre por los tacos.
Yeah. Your primos follow me for the tacos y cervezas.
Oh, los tacos y cervezas. Have you now? Currently, what is your favorite on the taco side?
I'm a purist, man. I like carne asada. Give me carnitas. Give me birria. Give me all the old classics. Yeah, birria de res, birria de chivo. Give me all the old school stuff. Now that I can cook all of it, it's like no wonder I'm just so fat.
No, just more to love, baby. Just more to love.
More to love. It's the girl dad thing too. I know you're a girl dad too, and it's really hard to maintain a nice slim figure when you know how to cook tacos and you have a daughter that stresses you out.
Eso sí, and yeah, I got 3 of them, so just think about where I'm at, and
can't even imagine.
It's wonderful and can be stressful all at the same time, and sometimes all in the same hour. So yeah, love being a girl dad. It's still the best, and especially when we get to take a couple breaks here and there for to talk a little fantasy, a little DFS. Well, first off, I wanted to ask Bo, how did the now Familia, we're doing this, we're talking week 18 now. So if you have everybody, you should already have finished your fantasy football season. So your fantasy finals.
If you're playing this week, I feel really bad for you.
Yes. And I think you're already, and you will be pretty much converted to finishing in week 17 next year, because it's just, no, it's just.
You're going to probably have to start like Tim Boyle or something.
Tim Boyle, or if you're lucky, Tyler Huntley, or just.
You'd be way too lucky to get Tyler Huntley.
That would be exactly. You're hitting the lottery if you're getting Tyler Huntley or Taysom Hill at this point, and just and that's why it's like you don't play. You should only be playing DFS at this point, which is why we're kind of like switching a lot of our content. We'll still do some some replays, huh?
You smell that? That's
No.
fresh blood in the water from all the people that just finished season long.
That's right. That's right. That's one of the great lines. Yes, all of a sudden it's just driving up the big tournaments so that you could take them down.
Yep. Yes, sir. Can't wait.
Now
Yeah.
I know you've
Come
been.
on in, guys. The lobbies, the water is just fine.
Yeah, those. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Especially if you see Bo in there, you're just you're going to be you're playing for second. So Familia. So just understand. So I don't go into his stakes. I go into other tournaments and
I'll send you an invite anyway.
Está bien, está bien. Hey, you know what? I don't mind getting my butt kicked. It's like it's like losing it. When you're playing golf. I know you're a big time golfer too. If you're playing golf for money, that's how you learn to play get better. So
yes.
that's how you learn.
Perdiendo es aprendiendo.
Perdiendo es aprendiendo. Muy bien, muy bien. I'm going to throw that one out to the primos next episode. But so now you got the fresh blood in the water. So we got week 18. Now, this is a week unlike any other week. Now, this is only my second year playing DFS. So, and what's funny is last year, the week that I did best was week 18. I remember having Brandon Cooks and Jerry Judy cheap, and they just blew up for me on that week. And everybody seemed to do well for me. I took down.
You didn't follow me because you would have had Isaiah McKenzie last year too.
I know that one. Yes. See, now I'm gonna make sure. But now, what are your ground rules or anything you're looking at, especially when it comes to week 18? Especially beyond, okay, what are the teams that don't have anything to play for?
Well, you don't want to completely fade those teams because they're still going to roll out a lot of valuable players. And you kind of I'm going to be more focused on good teams with nothing to play for and those reserve players that are going to get more run because they do want to see what they have there and rest their starters, keep their starters healthy, which is first and foremost for the teams that already have their spot locked up. Those teams that have nothing to play for that still have a lot of value in their second team. The people that are going to play all game, just like the Bills last year. I targeted Isaiah McKenzie last year because he had play packages designed for him throughout the season. Didn't get a lot of playing time because of how stacked that offense is. But when they had nobody really, they didn't want to play Diggs the whole game. They didn't want to play Josh Allen really the whole game. They still played most of the game, but they ran most of the plays through McKenzie's play packages. And that was kind of what I keyed in on is you have second team non-starters that if they have play packages that you've seen little glimpses of throughout the season, those are the guys you want to attack. You want to attack the guys that you've seen in little spurts throughout the season, like when they're blowing out or getting blown out in the fourth quarter and you start to see, hey, who's that guy that's on the field in the fourth quarter when there's garbage time? You pay attention to those guys. And then on the bad teams, you want to see the guys that are playing for a contract, playing for incentives. There's lots of guys that are playing for themselves, not necessarily for the team. So that's kind of what I've been diving into because this week is going to be crazy. Week 18 is going to be completely insane. If you thought this crazy, tumultuous season was crazy, it's going to end with a bang. And just like last week was pretty crazy too, but we kind of got a sense that it was going to be crazy because of all the COVID outages, all the injuries, all the people that were not really, they weren't trying to win or they were trying to get their, just get through the end of the season. You're still going to have some of that, but you're also going to have some crazy variance this week because there's going to be a lot of reserve players that are going to score some real fantasy points.
And that's the thing, you mentioned one of the things, the players playing for themselves. And I think that's one of the big misnomers about people think about this kind of week, that teams are not, that they're thinking that the teams aren't trying. The players are trying. They know that someone's watching. If a lot of these guys are playing on year-to-year contracts and they're trying to get that next contract, getting that, we talk about recency bias. There's that happens in football, that happens in all of pro sports, that they want to have that great taste in the owner's mouth at the end at the end of the season. They want to leave that great film at the end so that their agent can kind of go get them the next contract.
Week 18 is a lot like the preseason with clarity. With the preseason, you're playing those reserve guys to figure out who's got it and who doesn't. And then week 18, you're dealing with the same guys, but they're the guys that already made it. They're the guys that are healthy at the end of the year that are going to get some run to prove themselves, just like in the preseason. But at least we kind of know who it's going to be at this point in the season. It's the preseason, but with clarity. We know who the faces are. We just hope that they're going to have themselves a good game so they can show out for themselves and for us.
I love that, preseason with clarity. That's that we should make that a hashtag and see if we could start putting it out there. Put it out there. Well, let's start with the quarterbacks. So, I mean, there's such a variance of players that could be really helpful. From, I mean, starting with the most expensive guy, Josh Allen. He's 8,100. So all these dollar amounts that we're going to throw out there on DraftKings. So DraftKings, not a sponsor yet.
The best site, though. The best site.
It really is. It really is. And that's the one that I've played exclusively, actually, just because it was the person who taught me. That was how we learned, and I lost a lot of money that way, but that's okay. But Josh Allen at $8,100. I mean, it's a great setup with the Jets, and you're. I mean, I know there's a little possibility of weather. I think I saw that there's 15-mile-an-hour winds, but that's when it's Josh Allen. You don't. I mean, you got to be talking about a lot more.
He was still whizzing it through 40-mile-an-hour winds that game in at home against New England. So I don't feel like 15 is going to really affect the guy with the cannon like that.
But when at 8,100, are you going to put together a lineup paying up for him? Or are you? Can you justify that one? I mean, it's kind of hard, but I mean, he is a guy who could break the slate like we've seen a few times this season.
Yeah, he's the best quarterback for upside on the whole slate. And that's the reason why he's the most expensive. And if you look back again, week 17 last season, the Bills already had the number 1 seed locked up. And we're thinking, oh, Josh Allen's probably not going to play the whole game. He's going to go out there, run out there the first quarter, maybe the first half, and then call it a day, take off his pads at halftime, spend the rest of the time cheering his teammates on from street clothes. But the dude played nearly the entire game in a blowout win, thankfully finding Isaiah McKenzie for 2 touchdowns, and then McKenzie ran back a punt for another one. But Josh Allen had 20-plus fantasy points that day, even though he wasn't expected to play in a game where it meant literally nothing to the Bills. They already had the first-round bye locked up, top seed. They had nothing to play for. They didn't matter if they won or lost last year. This year, if they win and the Titans lose, they're the number 1 seed. So what does that tell you? The Bills have something to play for. And if it means that the only thing in their way to playing for that number 1 seed is the goddamn Jets, I think we're in on Josh Allen this week.
And that one's just, you look at that one, and I love that play, and I love the idea of stacking him with Stephon Diggs, because I mean, he's just been feeding him so many targets of late. Another guy, and obviously there been in a lot of news this week because for all the wrong reasons, and not anything to do with him, but Tom Brady at $7,500. I mean, he's a guy that has, I mean, even going back to 2007. When all he had to play for, he was playing for the perfect record, but he was also trying to go for 50 touchdowns, and he did it. And he ended up having a monster game in the last week of the season. Tom Brady, $7,500. I mean, I know he's lost a couple of his big pass catchers. I think he's still potentially a good play, even though he doesn't have that Konami code that Josh Allen has.
Yeah, this is the one I would be careful about, because Tom Brady doesn't have to play the whole game. And he does have some incentives he's playing for, but they're really close by. So he could theoretically hit his incentives in the first quarter and a half and then take a seat, because the Bucs aren't going to improve their seeding by much with a win. So I would be careful, especially with a team like that that's really struggling with health. Mike Evans has a hammy that he's still playing through. You don't want to have Brady get hurt in a meaningless game when they have the postseason coming up in a rugged NFC. So I would hesitate to play Tom Brady. Not saying he can't do really well if he does play the whole game. I just think that he has much less chance of playing the whole game in this specific scenario.
And I think one guy who's really got a great shot at having a big game is Kyler Murray at 7,400. He's got Seattle. I actually think this could be a sneaky shootout game.
Right.
Both defenses. What are you thinking on this game?
The Cardinals have a chance with a win and a Rams loss of getting that NFC West title, so they're definitely going to be playing. And I believe they're playing the same window as the Rams, so they're not going to know whether or not they're in automatically. They're going to say, okay, let's go out there and do what we do. And let's say we check the scoreboard and the Rams are winning or losing, and we already know what we need to do. We might pull Kyler at that point, but it's very unlikely. And that's such a great matchup. Seattle's defense is trash. Like it's slow, it's unathletic. They're just old. It's an old defense without any athleticism, and they're getting just diced every week. And Kyler Murray hasn't been overly explosive the last few weeks, but man, he's got it in him. And it's that Konami code. You want the guys, especially in DraftKings format where it's 4 points per passing touchdown, with 6 points for rushing touchdown. I want that guy on my team. I want that guy on my team because he's going to be the quickest way to get you 30 plus points from the quarterback.
The other thing about it, and he's, you mentioned the running. I saw a stat. I looked at his stats. I think out of his last 5 games, 4 of them, he's had at least 44 yards rushing. So
that's just a hop, skip, and a jump for him.
That's nothing.
I mean, he's really short, so it's like 2 hops and skips and jumps.
It's those short legs and everything like that. But man,
he's really got to keep him wheeling. But
I just mean, but he is so fast. He is still so fast.
That long run he had last week, where it was just like, oh, he's just gonna go, and there's nobody in front of him, and he's really going, and like he's a blur.
He's so fun. He's so fun to watch. I mean, I grabbed him a little bit too much this year on some best ball lineups and a couple of my leagues, and
him and Lamar you love to have him, but I mean Lamar for the first time ever has gotten hurt, and it sunk me in so many leagues.
Yeah, that one just hurts. And you know what? I think that's only going to drive down his ADP next year. So we'll get him at a discount, please, por favor. Por favor. And one game that I'm going to be watching closely is the Rams at San Francisco. Matthew Stafford at 6,700. I mean, he's a guy I'm going to build at least one lineup with because I think you've talked so much about the San Francisco the secondary just being. I mean, they've been basura for weeks. I mean, they're just. They're just hurt and just annihilated.
Yeah, when your best corner is a shell of Josh Norman, that's not a good sign. Josh Norman's not Carolina Josh Norman anymore. It's 80% of that, and against a team with the receiving core that the Rams have, that is a recipe for disaster. Especially when the Rams are going to be record chasing on Sunday.
Oh.
I mean, Cooper Kupp is within 11 catches of tying Michael Thomas's record of 149 catches. And he's 135 yards from catching Calvin Johnson, whose quarterback was also Matthew Stafford. And I remember back then when Calvin Johnson was on his chase for 2,000, he was one pass away where they took that shot at the end of that last game to try to get Calvin Johnson 2,000 receiving yards for the first player ever, and it just fell incomplete. But that was what they were trying for. He had already broken the record. And was going for 2,000 yards and was one catch away from making it happen. And Matthew Stafford, I guarantee he's going to want to get Cooper Kupp to pass both of those records. So I'm going to have a lot of Stafford because, I mean, look who they're playing. This is just like San Francisco is going to be good at getting after him, but if they can't get home, Stafford's going to light them up on the back end, especially with the running game. People are understating the return of Cam Akers. But it's all wait and see. It's like that an element that the Rams haven't even had all season.
Mm-hmm.
That is their entire offense is play action, threaten the run. Like if they're doing this kind of damage with Sony frickin' Michel back there, think about what they can do with Cam Akers, a top dynasty asset. Guy, even the running through drills off an Achilles 7 months ago, is one of the most gifted runners in the NFL still to this day. Even coming fresh off an Achilles tear, he's going to be electric. And he changes everything in that offense, because that was the part of the offense that scared everybody. It wasn't Stafford to Kupp in the preseason that was scaring everybody. It was like, how are we going to cover everybody when Cam Akers is going to be gashing us? And then they had Kupp and Woods back then, and it's like Kupp and Woods and Higbee, but Cam Akers was what they were afraid of. Now they have all those guys and Odell Beckham, and Jefferson took a step forward. This is a scary offense, and the return of Akers, just even Akers, 90% of Akers, is going to make this offense just incredibly difficult to stop. And with their defense, this is a scary football team to play going down the stretch. They're one of the toughest teams I see on paper in the whole league right now. So yeah, I'll have a lot of Stafford. So you better add more than just one Stafford lineup, because they're going to be record chasing, and they're sick of losing to the 49ers. They can't beat the Niners lately. They can't buy a win. And I guarantee they want to be the team that eliminates the 49ers from playoff contention.
Yeah, I think SoFi Stadium is going to be rocking right on Sunday, and it's going to be so fun. And one thing we didn't mention, you mentioned the 135 yards. He's 171 yards from becoming the first receiver to get 2,000 yards, and I think he's going to keep going, keep the pedal down beyond that.
If he cracks Calvin Johnson and it's the third quarter, they're going to be going for 2,000.
Can you imagine?
Say, oh, we're up by 20 on the 49ers. Let's pull it back a little bit. No. They're going to let's rub it in their face. We're going to take them and just grind them into the ground, because it's a statement game.
And if he does get it somewhere, Eric Dickerson will probably be in the stadium.
Oh yeah,
pointing out, hey, 2,000 right there. So that one will be that. Yeah, that one. Even though Cooper Kupp is so expensive, every lineup I have is going to be in there, because I think, I know you talk about 3X so much. I think he's a 3X kind of player this week.
It's easy money.
Oh, just easy money. Now there are a couple of cheap quarterbacks that I know you liked from this one. Taysom Hill and Tyler Huntley. Both have the Konami code. Both are playing defenses that are susceptible to the run. Hill against Atlanta at Atlanta, and Huntley with Pittsburgh. I know their front seven is a little bit more stout, but they've been getting beat up on the run. Those are kind of sexy picks if you want to pay down at quarterback.
And I'll be doing that a lot, because both of these teams have something to play for. They're both playing for their playoff lives. And Taysom Hill is so much better with Alvin Kamara in the lineup. I can't really say the same about Kamara with Taysom Hill in the lineup, but it does help. Like Kamara with Ian Book or Trevor Siemian in there, that's not good. We don't like Kamara with nobody at quarterback. We do like Kamara a little bit more with Taysom Hill at quarterback. We would love if Drew Brees would come out of retirement and throw perfectly accurate and on-time swing passes 20 times a game to Kamara, but we'll get the second best choice with Taysom Hill. And Taysom Hill as a runner, as a passer, as a fantasy weapon. Do I think he's a good quarterback? No, not by any stretch. He's terrible. He's absolute basura. But Taysom Hill for fantasy he's mi amigo. I love Taysom Hill for fantasy, especially when they're playing a defense. They're like I wrote about, Atlanta's front seven is a myth. We're not actually sure it exists. There's been rumblings that the front seven for Atlanta exists, but I haven't seen it yet. It's like a mythological folk story. It's it's a telenovela. It's really, really bad.
Yeah, well, I'll do a telenovela for you.
It's that bad. The front seven for Atlanta sucks. It's terrible. And Taysom Hill / Alvin Kamara will be my favorite stack of the week, based on price. Like Kamara is $1,000 cheaper than Jonathan Taylor, and don't get me wrong, I love me some Jonathan Taylor. He's my favorite. He's been my favorite running back since he came out of Wisconsin. But Alvin Kamara, $1,000 cheaper for DFS purposes, that's what I want. And I want him paired up with Taysom Hill, because those two guys are going to run the rock, and they're going to run the rock a lot, and they're going to score touchdowns. And any passing volume that Taysom Hill does have, half of it's going to go to Alvin Kamara, because why not? If you have 41 next to you, why aren't you throwing the 41? It makes all the sense in the world to attack Atlanta with the two best players on the field.
No, I love it. I love it. Well, you already talked about Kamara and a little bit about JT. 9,300. I mean, last year in week 18, he went for 253 yards. Just a monster that week. He's 266 away from 2,000.
Yep.
Do you think he could
I
be
think
record
he's got
chasing?
a little something for those Jags. Again, they played the Jags last year in the last game too. I think he's got a little something. He's not, I don't know if he gets there, but he's going to try. And again, the Colts are playing for their playoff lives. If they win, they're in. And that's the thing, is if they're blowing out the Jags without Jonathan Taylor, then he's not going to get there because they'll pull him. But if they get there and they're beating the Jags because of Jonathan Taylor is going nuclear again, then we might have that 40, 50-point performance that makes 9,300 irrelevant.
Now, have you been able to build any lineups with both Kupp and Taylor?
No, but I do have my Clash of the Beards and Bellies lineup that I just posted, or I just saved today for a little nimble himself, Scotty. We set up the Clash of the Beards and Bellies that'll be published tomorrow. But my lineup has both JT and Kamara.
I love it. I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I'm also stacking Huntley with Andrews, so I think he's gonna be in some peligro.
Oh man, when those guys go nuclear, it's gonna be awesome. Oh, that's gonna be awesome. I do have a lineup with Huntley and Andrews and Kupp in it so far. So, but I had to go a little cheaper on the running back side.
But that's the thing about this week, is you can get those cheaper guys, those reserve players, from teams that aren't going to be playing for much. Like, oh, I'm saving my starters for the playoffs, or my coach is already on his way out on Mondays. So what's the use of playing these starters? We got to figure out what we got in house. Like, is this guy just a special teams player, or does he have some juice to play if there's an injury next year? Are we going to extend this guy? Are we going to pick up an option on this guy? That's the questions that these franchises have to answer in week 18. And I'll be using that to my advantage to get these studs locked into my DFS lineup by getting minimum price guys that haven't seen a lot of the field so far.
Well, who are some of the? I put a few guys in there, guys, kind of mid-price guys like David Montgomery, Rashad Penny, Devin Singletary.
Yes.
I mean, those guys.
Senor. Monty, give me all the Monty. 6,800 from Monty? Are you kidding me? That's a crime. Es un crimen. Que lástima.
Yeah, Minnesota's defense is just not bad. And I love Penny this week. I mean, Penny, I think, has just been so caliente lately.
He's tough to bring down. That's a big boy.
Yeah, it's so good to see him healthy. I got to tell you, it is. It took a while.
And for all you watching out there, there is no such thing as injury prone. It doesn't exist. It's just something we make up so we can tell ourselves that we made the right choice by fading a guy who got hurt after the fact. Like, oh yeah, I knew he was gonna get hurt again. The guy's always hurt. Like, guess who's gonna get CMC super cheap next year because of the injury prone narrative? Yeah, it's not a real thing. Football's a sport where everybody gets injured at some point, and some people are just unlucky more than once.
Yeah, by the way, shout out to buen amigo of the show,
Edwin Porras.
El buen doctor. So he is, yeah. In fact, I was talking to him earlier today, just a social call. We had catching up for a while, and yeah, we talked a little about that. Yeah, he's injury prone is a lie.
That's one of my favorite follows on Twitter. So shout out Edwin, Dr. Edwin. You are one of my favorite follows, and to the end, buddy. There's no such thing as injury prone. And just like my buddy Matt Harmon says, there's drops don't matter.
Yes.
So, I have to slip that in. Drops don't matter and injury prone isn't real. So there you go.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, are there any, I got on there Deontay Foreman, Elijah Mitchell, who I like a lot this week too, because he has just been he's been a volume king. And even Devonta Freeman got 5,200 is a little
asqueroso, man.
You don't like him?
No.
Even against that Pittsburgh defense that's been so bad. against the
Yeah,
run.
but they bottled Nick Chubb up pretty well for the most part after the first half. And
Yeah.
that's a better rushing attack. Like the Browns' offensive line is better. The Browns' scheme for running the ball with Nick Chubb is better. Nick Chubb is 10 times the running back that Devontae Freeman is. And I just don't see it. I just for whatever reason, Freeman's got a little bit of life left in him, which is surprising because of how he looked last year. It was just like he was a dead man walking out there. But yeah, there's so many better choices at a better price this week. Like I'd rather spend down to the minimum price on Patrick Taylor of the Packers. Like
Ooh.
because I think the Packers are going to roll their starters out there to get a few incentives done. Aaron Jones is probably maybe going to play a first quarter because he's already nursing an injury. A.J. Dillon will get a little bit more run. I'll throw some A.J. Dillon out there. But Patrick Taylor in the second half of that game against the Detroit Lions, oh, baby. Oh, baby.
Ooh, I love that. I love that.
$4,000 flat. That's the minimum price running back. I love me some Patrick Taylor. And it would be Kylan Hill, but unfortunately he got hurt earlier in the year.
I know.
Kylan Hill would be nuclear this week if he was healthy. But
This
in any case, Patrick Taylor is going to have himself a day on Sunday. That's one of my sneakier picks. Is playing Patrick Taylor at $4,000 so I can afford all these other guys.
By the way, shout out to Rado Heat Craig Ruth. Buen amigo. ¿Cómo estamos? Peace.
The gift wizard.
Oh yes, El Rey of the gifts. There probably at least 3 times a week I get a belly laugh because of one of his gifts that he posts on Twitter. At
a lot
least
of times
3.
I'm in them.
Hey, yeah, he's got shots of the both of us with mustaches that he's gonna use for life, and it's just
At least I look really guapo in mine.
He did one of me with the oh my gosh, he did one of me with like a Three Amigos kind of thing that was just absolutely perfection. My kids were dying. My kids were rolling around laughing too on that one. It was great. So that's the great thing about being girl dads. We could be the butt of jokes and it doesn't matter. So Craig, salud,
it's what
brother.
we live for, really.
Yes. Salud, brother. We're gonna. I'll toast you after this one because I don't want to get too drunk and mess up talking with El Rey Bo. Well, let's go over to the receivers. We talked about Cooper Kupp, so 9,700. I mean, everybody get him in your lineup.
Lock him in.
Don't even think about it. For those who may want to save some money or maybe make a contrarian lineup that doesn't include Cooper Kupp, Deebo Samuel and Stephon Diggs at 8,500 and 7,800, they could be good alternate options if you want to pay
no
up.
Problem with either one of them. They're both pretty good at football.
Yeah, they're both pretty good, and they're both.
Yeah, I'm not going to fight you on those two guys. Those are good plays. Jorge's smart.
I do love Deebo. Deebo has got a special place. He took me to a championship in my hardest league. It took us from the 6th seed all the way to the chip. So, muchas gracias.
I'm too big of an Ayuk fan, so I got left at the altar on a lot of Deebo because I didn't want both of them, even though I like both of them. I picked Ayuk a round before, and then I had so much Ayuk that I came down a round later. Deebo's still sitting there. I'm like, I just can't do it. I can't have 2 49ers receivers because they're low passing volume, blah blah blah. Well, it just turns out it was the wrong pick.
Oh, and that was the crazy thing. The way we had him, I think Ayuk went in the 4th round in that league. That was a 14-teamer, and we were in need of receivers in 6. And actually the crazy thing was we missed Cooper Kupp in the 3rd round by a pick. And he would, and actually it was Woods, Kupp, and then it was our turn, and so we ended up going DJ Moore, and I just sat there and I was, and I know we would have had Kupp because I'm a Ram fan, so I would have.
Yeah, of course. You were waiting on those two guys, one or the other, and you probably would have been happy with either one at that point.
Exactly. I just thought, you know what, I'm going to get 1,000-yard receiver at this point. I didn't know that I was going to get,
especially with Stafford coming into town. That was such an exciting point for even the people that had Kupp ranked appropriately for his ADP. Like his ADP wasn't terrible. It was in line with a small bump in production from last year because everybody saw that Kupp and Woods were going to get a slight upgrade at the very least from Stafford. We didn't expect Woods to take a back seat so soon and then tear his ACL. That was the huge jumping off point for Kupp to just shoot off into the stratosphere because he's a zone beater. And if you're going to play the Rams with a gunslinger quarterback, you're not going to man up on those guys. That would just be dumb. That's insane. Don't man up against the Rams. That's like you're an idiot for manning up against the Rams because you can't cover all those crossing routes. They bunch everybody in there and they just run all these crossers. And you're like, you run man coverage. You got 3 guys running wide open. Well, if you run zone, the only guy running wide open is Cooper Kupp. There you go. That explains the whole Rams season is, hey, we're not going to run man because that's dumb. We're going to run zone, and the only person that's going to kill us is Cooper Kupp. And he's done it every single week.
Yeah, I could. I'm thinking at least 15 targets on him on Sunday. Just
first half.
Load him up. Now there are some other guys still in the $7,000 range. Deontay Johnson, Mike Evans, AJ Brown. That they're all.
Yep.
Deontay officially off the COVID list today.
So was only on there for one day.
Yeah, I actually found that out in your King of Spice article. So much as for.
I was writing it up, and I wrote I pick the top guys for each tier that I like for cash games, and I almost put Deontay in there. It's like, isn't he on the COVID list? And I skipped over him. I put AJ Brown in there because I love AJ Brown this week. And then I got down to tight end, and I was about to put Pat Freiermuth as my top tight end pick. And then I was like, you know what? I want to check on Deontay. Like, you never know if he's going to get activated or not by Sunday. I still didn't know that he was already activated. I click on DraftKings, I pull up his player profile, and I was like, well, he spent 1 day on the COVID protocol list, and he's already active again. So I guess Freiermuth is not my best tight end pick, even though he's still a good one. But Deontay's fine. I think with the Titans playing for that number 1 seed and Derrick Henry maybe coming back to play a little bit, that can free up a little bit AJ Brown. If we think he's going to get 10 plus targets, which is pretty much a lock, that's what I'm looking for, especially with his playmaking ability. This guy's an absolute monster after the catch. And so if you're going to give that guy the volume he deserves, which he should in this game, that's why I like him so much. AJ Brown's one of my favorite receivers to play this week. Yeah,
we saw that. We saw that, going up against a secondary that can get beat when he he destroyed the 49ers on Thursday Night Football a couple of weeks ago. That was like one-on-one basketball between him and Deebo Samuel that night. It was
two
epic.
Completely amazing athletes just doing what they do.
Yeah. I was just
two quarterbacks just basically doing extended handoffs to get them the ball. Like Jimmy Garoppolo, Ryan Tannehill, get the ball to 19 and 11 and just get out of the way.
Yeah, just clear out, yeah. Just get out of the way.
It's like Kobe Bryant versus Michael Jordan. You have ISO basketball, which in basketball, it's boring to watch ISO ball. It's like James Harden is like watching paint dry. But at the end of the day, the stats are cool. But in football, you get that ISO ball going, and it's refreshing. It's different. It's something it doesn't happen often because it's such a team sport with 11 guys. Everything has to line up so perfectly in football for that to be a thing. But those two guys had a special night together, and I had both of them in showdown slate, and it was very fruitful.
Oh, that was I think that one. I don't think I got AJ in mine. I did get Deebo in a showdown slate, in a showdown lineup, and just because I didn't have Deebo, it didn't cash.
Yeah, you had to have both to win that night, and I had both. I had AJ in all my captain spots, and then some of the lineups I split between Deebo or Ayuk or Kittle, and Kittle is the one that was the dud that night. But it was so. But the lineups I had both Deebo and AJ in the captain spot. It was just nasty how many points they scored. So yeah, fire up AJ Brown this week.
By the way,
or Deebo.
By the way, I learned something today that the AJ stands for Arthur Juan.
Oh boy!
So I could claim AJ Brown as an honorary Latino. So thank you.
You already have Julio Jones on the team. Even though he's hurt. Yeah, Arthur Juan or Julio. Hey, vete para acá. Torne a la izquierda.
Arriba. Listo. Ahí viene la pelota. Ahí viene el balón.
Corre a post.
Oh man. Ay, Dios mío. Well, speaking of Dios mío plays, I think Brandon Cooks and Darnell Mooney, both great possibilities.
I wrote about both of them. You know that.
Oh, I know you do love both of them, and I mean Mooney especially. I mean at 5,900 against that Minnesota defense.
How does that even happen? The dude had 13 targets last week.
I think it's just the whole thing. You know, DraftKings doesn't love their quarterback. It's just like, look, the guy's just getting targets, just like Brandon Cooks keeps getting targets, no matter who's the quarterback.
Davis Mills is a sneaky little quarterback play, but
Oh, really? Oh, yes. That muy cierto. Yeah, especially if the Chiefs lose.
Even if they don't.
Yeah, no, I think that's. Oh, yeah, he'll still be playing. You know, pretty well. So it's a quiet stack for you guys. Now on the cheap guys, I know one guy that you like on the cheap this week is Deontay Harris, which I love that call.
When you're looking at sub $3,500 wide receivers, you're looking at, okay, what role do they have in the offense? And it's been a while. Deontay had an injury, then he was put on the COVID list, and then he had a 3-game suspension. So the whole gamut is we haven't seen much of Deontay Harris in weeks, almost a month. And he came back last week, but he didn't have any practice time because of the COVID protocol. And he got half the snaps. He got 2 targets, caught a couple balls for 25 yards. But because he was the second team, didn't practice. He wasn't with the first team in practice. So they didn't install his part of the game plan because they didn't know what he was going to be ready for. He's had a full week of practice. That's what I see for Deontay Harris. Has a very defined role as the starting slot receiver for the Saints. And it's a very important role with Taysom Hill as the quarterback because he's not a gunslinger type. Like, he's not reluctant to throw it downfield, but it's either Marquez Callaway down the field or nobody. They don't really have good receivers down the field. Deontay Johnson he's actually pretty capable down the field. We saw that against Dallas, where he got behind the defense, even though it was late, soft zone coverage. He found a spot, and he's extremely fast. We know that Deontay Harris has 4.3 speed. He's a little guy, but man, if you get the ball in his hands, he's electric. And at 3,200, that's just a no-brainer because he's still averaging 9 fantasy points a week, which is by far the most points per game of anybody below $4,000.
Any other cheap plays that you like on the receiver side?
There's a few. One? I mean, Ray McLeod, just based on volume alone, at 3,800 for Pittsburgh, because Baltimore can't cover anybody. Baltimore struggles against wide receivers, slot receivers, tight ends, running backs. They can't cover anybody. And that's my old saying is that secondary couldn't cover a dead body with a tarp, and that's the Baltimore Ravens. So I do like a little bit of Ray McLeod, just assuming that the Steelers are going to stick with their low depth of target, dink and dunk, 50 attempts, but nothing past the line of scrimmage. They're going to hit Ray McLeod because he's an athlete in space. And that's just kind of the game they play, is the Steelers like to just kind of pepper underneath and not take too many shots over the top. Ray McLeod could walk into quite a bit of volume, just like last week where he had 10 targets, but he only had 4 catches for 40 yards. It's not a lot, but I mean, for cheap receivers, you're looking for upside. There's just not a lot there this week. Maybe Nico Collins as a cheap stacking option with Davis Mills, but yeah, it's just really the slim pickings are there at wide receiver because you can kind of get cute with running back reserves in those meaningless games. But wide receivers are going to be really tough to peg because you have multiple guys on each team that are going to get more run than they're used to. And it's a matter of picking which ones can actually do something with it.
Oh man. And Craig, by the way, as far as me playing a wide receiver for the Titans, actually I'm gonna nominate our buen amigo Robbie Johnson, who's Dominicano. Who's Dominicano, and he can run. He's as he's told me, he's formerly a really good receiver. So I think that's still in
Roberto.
there. Even though he's hit the dirty 30, I think he's still got a lot of juice in him. So
He's got to be better than Nick Westbrook-Akina, though.
Muy cierto, muy cierto. Oh man. Well, let's go to the tight ends real quick.
Okay.
We got. I really feel like this is a position you can't go cheap. You can't go cheap too often. How do you
risky
feel?
For sure.
I mean, Mark Andrews is 7,500 going up against Pittsburgh. I think he's going to get, he's getting fed all the time, especially by Huntley. Is it hard? You mentioned you got to line up with him and Kupp and JT. I mean, it's just a volume play. You don't have Kelsey in the Sunday slate because he plays on Saturday. And you got Waller on Sunday Night Football. So really, I mean, he's the guy to spend up on.
Well, and my favorite tight end of the whole weekend is Dalton Schultz against the Eagles.
Ooh.
And he's on Saturday too. So yeah, you're left with spending up on Andrews or Kittle, and then after that, it's like, okay, what else we got here? And so I do have quite a bit of Andrews, but I also have a lot of Zach Ertz because his volume has really spiked since DeAndre Hopkins went down. And it was unfortunate that he had his third game against the Cowboys this last week. And it was the first time he didn't score a touchdown on us because Zach Ertz has the most catches by an opponent of any tight end in NFL history against the Cowboys. Like he has 50-something catches against the Cowboys just by itself in his career, which is the most by any tight end in history against the Cowboys. The Cowboys cannot cover Zach Ertz, and he had like 7 or 8 more catches on 10 targets against them. Just didn't score the touchdown that I predicted. But he's going up against a Seattle defense that, again, just like the Ravens, can't cover a dead body with a tarp. And especially over the middle of the field, their linebacking core is so old and unathletic. Zach Ertz is going to have a field day, especially with Kyler Murray. Just he's spreading the ball everywhere, but he's also finding open receivers, and that's why Ertz gets so many targets. He's always open. He's a really athletic, even for his age, over the middle of the field. That's his domain, and Seattle has nobody that can match up with him, and especially with their Tampa 2 zone. That's the weakness of the Tampa 2 zone is behind the middle linebacker. If he doesn't get deep enough, that entire seam is wide open because both safeties are worried about the outside rails, and you have the tight end up the seam just sitting down, wide open all game long. And so Zach Ertz's volume is going to be there, and if he scores a touchdown, he's going to smash.
And oh yeah, you just blew my mind though with him having more receptions against the Cowboys because I just was doing like a little mental
just
mental
like Aaron Rodgers owns the Bears.
Yeah.
It's on Wikipedia now. Like you can put Dallas Cowboys owner Zach Ertz.
Yeah, because I was sitting there thinking it's like great tight ends that have played in the NFC East: Mark Bavaro, Jeremy Shockey, Keith Jackson, and all of them take a back seat to Zach Ertz. How amazing is that? So, wow,
not amazing. The guy owns us, and it drives me crazy as a Cowboys fan because every time Zach Ertz comes down, he scores touchdowns.
Well, one guy that's a little bit more pricey than him is Gronk. So Rob Gronkowski at 6,300 going against that Carolina defense that's just been decimated.
Again, I'd be careful because it's the Bucs and we don't know how much they're going to play. Like Gronk is a prized asset, especially with all their other wide receivers doing different things. Evans nursing a hammy, Godwin out for the season, AB stripping and getting cut. Whether it's his fault or the Bucs' fault is irrelevant at this point. It means that Tom Brady's down another valuable weapon in the passing game. And Gronk is the healthiest of them all, and that's really saying something because he's been banged up this season. And if they want to make another run at the Super Bowl, they're going to need Gronk. So I'm not sure if Gronk and Brady are going to play most of this game. It's just the Bucs are appealing because of that the Panthers matchup, but in the back of my mind, I'm wondering if I'm Bruce Arians if I'm going to risk it.
Yeah, he's Mr. No risk it, no biscuit, but he may want to put kind of reel that in a little bit. So
You might want to piensa a bit.
So I got one a cheap play to throw out there. Cole Kmet at 3,400 against Minnesota. So he's getting some volume. Late in the season. That 3,400 to try and get some of those more pricey guys in the lineup. So I may
go cheaper. You can go cheaper than Kmet.
Ooh, who you got?
If you're going down there, you might as well go down there. Because Kmet is getting steady, okay volume, but he's not scoring touchdowns because that's Jimmy Graham's job to be tall and stand there in the end zone. Kmet's he's a decent cash play, but he hasn't really panned out as a fantasy asset. He's a good player. But, I'd rather have, if Njoku ends up playing, I'd rather have him. I'd rather have Cameron Brate because if you're going to preserve Gronk, Brate's going to be a red zone weapon. I'd rather have Mo Alley Cox with Jack Doyle still out because Jacksonville can't stop anybody. John Bates is a good play against the Giants because they can't stop anybody. My NorCal homie, who made the article again this week, Josiah DeGuara of Green Bay. Sacramento born and bred. You have the infamous first-round pick of Jordan Love 2 years ago or last year. You have the second-round pick was A.J. Dillon. The third-round pick was Josiah DeGuara. And unfortunately, Robert Tonyan tore his ACL this year, so we've seen a lot of DeGuara. He dropped a touchdown last week, which broke my heart because I had him in a couple of lineups for Showdown slate. And when he dropped the touchdown, I was like, that was supposed to be our Northern California connection between Chico boy Aaron Rodgers and Sacramento boy Josiah DeGuara, who I have mutual friends with both of these guys, and Josiah at 2,900 against Detroit, who's 24th against the tight end, and I'm thinking it's a third-round pick in his second season. Last season was lost due to injury. They didn't get to see a lot of him. They're seeing more of him right now, but I think once they pull Rodgers and they bring in Jordan Love and they bring in Patrick Taylor and they're letting Lazard run the offense with MVS and all these other guys, Daphne, I think DeGuara, they're going to give DeGuara some looks because they want to see what they have, whether or not they want to keep paying Tonyan to keep him around to coming off an ACL anymore. We already know that Sternberger is not the answer. Give me DeGuara. He's younger. He's more athletic. He's a good blocker. He needs to learn how to catch the damn ball, but I really do like him because Rodgers and Love both will look for a tight end, especially in the end zone situations where you're goal to go. It's a really appealing target for me at 2,900. And you can do Mercedes Lewis if you're feeling frisky about an older than me vet on the Packers getting some run. Jimmy Graham, 2,800, is always a touchdown threat. Jawan Johnson of the Saints. There's so many guys that are cheaper than Cole Kmet that could very well outscore it.
Oh man! And by the way, your mention of John Bates just brought an exclamation point from our good friend Craig.
Craig's still awake, huh?
Gracias, Craig. Gracias, Craig. Oh man! On the defense side, now one of the things that I like to do when I'm looking for a defense, I'm trying to look for a defense that's cheap and is home. So those are the two things I look for first.
Cheap and home, huh?
Yeah,
the Jaguars are cheap and home.
I'm not that crazy. Well, I think only $100 more was Miami, and so I threw them in there, and I think they had kind of a clunker last week, but they've been really good lately. And
let's go back and look at the tape. They played New England week 1 at Foxborough, and they held them to 16 points. But that was before we got the real Patriots team that we saw down the stretch. They still only scored 6 points. That's not going to get it done. Back then they were 2,900 and only got you 6 points, so a little bit better at 2,400. But yeah, I mean, it's just that's not in the cards for me. I'm not going down that low. Even Miami's too low for me. I think the cheapest one I'm looking at is the Cleveland Browns.
Ooh.
Cleveland Browns against the Bengals. They're starting Brandon Allen, no Joe Mixon, Jamar Chase without Joe Burrow out there. That's a different story. Joe Burrow is one of the best deep ball throwers, one of the most fearless passers in the league. He's got talent coming out of his ears. Brandon Allen has none of those things. And Brandon Allen without Joe Mixon has even less of those things. So Samaje Perine, Chris Evans is another running back I didn't mention, but he made the article as a cheap running back because he's a receiving threat. Samaje Perine, gross, but you can do it. Browns defense against a half-mast team from the Bengals. They really don't have anything to play for. And if you go back to the game log, they played mid-season, week 9, 41-16. The Browns beat the Bengals in Cincinnati. Right. And we had 16 points allowed, 2 interceptions, a fumble recovery, 5 sacks, and a defensive touchdown for a total of 18 fantasy points. That was your slate-breaking defense in week 9, and that was with Burrow and Mixon playing. The Browns defense can still score fantasy points, even though they're caca. They can still get you home, especially with Brandon Allen as their only threat.
Yeah, I like that. I like that one a lot. I like that
and
one.
They're 2,600.
I think
that's as low as I'll go.
I think they're going to
get after home. Cheap and home, baby.
I love it. I love it. Well, I think we got to round out and take this one home. We got some beer, some cervezas to happen. I waited to have.
It could be High Noon Sun Sips. They're delicious.
Ooh, where's it from? Is it your neck of the woods?
I don't know. Let's see. Modesto, yeah. So Central California.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
But it's vodka and soda, all different flavors. They're all delicious. They've hit me up. They said I'm on the list for potential sponsorships for when they're looking for that sort of thing. So they did placate me. So at least I got some attention when I shouted them out on Twitter. High Noon Sun Sips. It's delicious any time of year.
Love it. Love it. Well, Bo, I can't thank you enough for doing this, kind of subbing in and dropping the knowledge. You're not only a good friend, but you're also really one of the most knowledgeable people I know, especially when it comes to DFS. So, and I know you and Scott have been having the battle of the beards and bellies, and I know you're a little bit ahead of him on that one. So,
I've been giving him too much hope though lately.
But seriously, I appreciate you jumping on, and please make sure to plug everybody. Find his writing. You find him on Nimble W Numbers, but also please give a plug to your great spice, the King of Spice. Feel free. The floor is yours, mi amigo.
So, back in January 2020, before COVID struck us, I was bored at home. It was 10 o'clock at night, and I wanted to recreate a taco sauce from the taqueria down the street, which is the best taco sauce in the world still to this day. Because when I tried to recreate it, I added too much vinegar and ended up with a hot sauce. And that hot sauce became the most deliciously intense condiment on planet Earth, Hot Box Gourmet Hot Sauce. You can find it at bigtimeflavor.co, which is my company. And I have accompanied the hot sauce with 4 unique seasoning blends for all occasions. You have a Smoke Shack barbecue rub. You have It's Taco Season, which you can use for any protein type or vegetable for seasoning tacos. It's good for everything. And then, of course, your Shelby Street Heat Nashville Hot Blend. That's for your fried chicken, your fried catfish, your fried fingers. Just be careful. All those things. If you like spicy and you like sweet and the same thing, you can pretty much put Shelby Street Heat on everything. That's actually a fan favorite. People think Shelby Street Heat is my best product. And then finally, Amigo all-purpose seasoning blend goes on everything. It's called Amigo. It has a picture of my Australian Shepherd dog holding a wooden spoon on the logo because it's every food's best friend. It's Amigo. And so, I pay homage to, I don't have Latin heritage, but I do have Latin blood in my veins. I have so much love for the Latin community, the Chicanos out there that have helped me along the way to develop my palate. Shout out to all you, because the inspiration for many of my products has deeply running roots in Latin America, and without you guys, without you guys being inviting me into your familia, I wouldn't have a business. I wouldn't have a line of products to help people make their mother-in-law's cooking tolerable. And you'll know what I'm talking about if you have a white mother-in-law.
And actually, it's his stuff is so good. Field Yates is a return customer, so everybody, oh, you gotta love that. Gotta love that.
BigTimeFlavor.co.
Oh yeah, I put it in it's in the notes down at the bottom of our the YouTube page.
That.
So please make sure to find him. And Familia, eso es todo for our show. Again, we're on YouTube. Please make sure to give us a like and subscribe. Give us that thumbs up. Definitely give us a big help. Por favor, por favor. Also, you can follow us on Anchor, puts us on Apple, Google, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Also, please go to familiaffb.com. We got original content on there. I'm going to have an article on there on Saturday morning, breaking down the Saturday slate and kind of going game by game. Who are the players to play? All the players that we talked about tonight are going to be in there. And also Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Familia FFB, and you can find me, Jorge Martin 17. Otra vez, Familia. Thank you so much. Muchas gracias. Hope you had a great season. Kick some butt this weekend. Have fun finishing second to Bo. And remember, todos somos familia. Salud.